Morning. I'm not writing the top 10 as we speak. I am writing down some other teams that I do want to talk about, just as like a reference. I actually finished my top 10 2 hours ago. Completely typed out. I do type out the top 10s because I do basically read off of a script instead of just notes that I recall things in my brain. And it's faster to type out paragraphs than it is to write them out. A lot easier to edit them as well. Other notes, it's just me just putting a bullet point in a few words, and then I just know, oh, I can take this bullet point in a few words and talk about it for 2 minutes. It's how you save time when you do an hour show a week, or 2 1-hour shows this week. There's a team in this tournament called Soak and Destroy. I don't know about that one. What? I'm not paying attention. What do you guys say? How will this affect LeBron's legacy? Are they really putting up a banner for winning that in-season tournament. That's going to negatively affect his legacy. You're on the list? Oh, Elemental. Don't you worry. I have had you on a list for quite a while. Don't worry about it. Real top 10 are the first 10 who sign up and don't need to ask questions in help desk. Possibly. I think I got one team that is the first 10 teams to sign up that's actually in my top 10. No, we're not making 10 friends this long. Or along the way. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Popcast. Whenever you're listening to this, whether it be live or a VOD, Twitch or YouTube, or Spotify. While you are debating if tower control is a real mode or not, wondering how long it's going to take for Chargers head coach Brandon Staley to get fired today, thinking that foil squeezer with only the chicken bomb is better than vanilla squeezer with inkwall and Zuka. Whatever it is that you're doing right now, appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to this. Unless I don't. For those of you who follow the NFL, that Brandon Staley joke was written at 10 a.m. this morning. 2 hours after it was written, he officially did get fired, so that joke is already obsolete. So there you go. If you watched the game last night, it was pretty rough to go through if you're a Chargers fan. But I don't think there is a single Chargers fan on planet Earth anyways. Sucks to suck. Good news is that everyone here in the Pop Gun household, PJ, Miss Pop, and myself, are getting over our little cold that we've been having. Last week, PJ brought home a cold from daycare and spread it to us. First to my wife and then to me. So I think we're all now getting over it. Last night was the first night I was able to sleep without waking up in a pool of my own snot. But I'm at that point where, like, okay, I'm good, but I'm still weak. Like, I need another day to just kind of like get energy back. So this is going to be a little bit of a low energy episode of the Popcast, or maybe I'll get hyped up as we talk about the upcoming segment. Can I just ask a question? Because we have a lot of health professionals in this community, based off the conversations I've seen about splatter screen in the past week. What is the point of snot? Like mucus? Why do we have that? Why do we need to create so much mucus in our body? Like, what? Especially when you have a cold. Like, why is it that when you get a cold, your body just goes all Henry Ford and just pushes you into overtime? We need to be cranking out mass-producing snot nonstop. Like, we can't get enough of this stuff. I'm pretty sure I produced enough snot in the past week to power a third world country. And I know this is a gross thing to talk about, but I've been really frustrated with just how being sick works, and it doesn't make any sense to me why. It seems like a flaw within the design of the body. But I could be wrong. I'm no doctor. News of tournaments may be of interest to the casual listener of the podcast. Low Ink registration is still open for a few more hours. If you're watching this live, you have about 6 hours to get your affairs in order, get your rosters lined up, and get your splash tags fixed. If you're watching this in the future on YouTube, I don't like you either. Actually, no, JK, I love the YouTube audience more than the Twitch live audience, because the YouTube audience actually gives engaging feedback, whereas the Twitch audience is, well, they're known as the idiots in chat. If you're not playing in Low Ink, or I guess you could do both, I always like to shout out Squid Junction when they are running on the same day as Low Ink. Squid Junction runs at 8 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday, and we like to support them when we can. It's always nice to have a tournament to point people to. Oh, hey, you're banned from Low Ink, but right there's a tournament you can play in. I like it when there's open tournaments that go on at the same exact time as Low Ink, because we can even do that. Like, hey, we know you're available on Saturday. We know you're not doing anything else because you were planning on playing in our tournament. Well, there's another tournament that you can play in that's going on at the same exact time. Why won't you sign up for that one? You won't? Weird. You're available. We know you are. Today, we are going to be previewing the December Low Ink for 2023. And my top 10 teams that I think I have the best chance of winning Low Ink this time around. And unlike previous months, I actually sat down and did some decent research into this one. Because I had to, because it's been a while since we've done consistent Low Inks. And some of these team names I've completely forgotten about. In all honesty, I forgot about the team that finished second place back in October, which, to be fair, we should forget about the second place team because it's only the winners that matter. But, yeah, I put a team in my top 10, and then I was like, I know these guys are supposed to be here, but I don't know why. And then I looked it back up. I was like, oh, these guys almost won it last time. So, get ready for that. All that and more. But first, I believe the initial tweet that sparked the new Soup of the Day conversation originated from Gray of Alliance Rogue. Tweet reads as this. Quote, "We are almost in 2024. True. And I still have no clue why we as a community still force ourselves to play all 4 ranked modes. I've been advocating for Splat Zone only for years, other people for even longer, but I've yet to hear anyone genuinely say something good about Tower Control, Rainmaker, or Clan Blitz, end quote. Well, I got to give Gray some praise there. If Gray has genuinely never once in their life heard anyone say anything positive about Tower Control, Rainmaker, or Clan Blitz, that means they're not paying attention to the competitive Splatoon Twitter, which is a good thing. That we should be patting ourselves on the back if we are not paying attention to crap that's on Twitter. But if Gray's genuinely mine's gonna be blown when they look at the responses to this tweet and see people say genuine good things about Tower Control, Rainmaker, and Clan Blitz. Obviously not everyone agrees with that statement. Some people do. It's not fair to say some people. A lot of people do agree with Gray's stance that splat zones only should be the way that things go. There's still equally, if not more, amount of people on the opposite side of the spectrum that say, no, thank you. But it's a fine conversation to have. It's a harmless, fun debate to have. Should we axe off all the modes except for Splat Zone? Should we do Splat Zones only? I think that's a fine conversation to have. I don't think there's anything malice against anybody in that tweet. Not that anybody's suggesting that there is. But I'd much rather us debate those kinds of things instead of, all the other useless crap that we're talking about. And by the way, if you do want to hear people say positive things about Tower Control, Rainmaker, or Clan Blitz, all you got to do is wait for the top players that win Mode Cup to come out and say, oh, Rainmaker's been great this whole entire time. Man, Clan Blitz is so slept on. This is a fantastic mode. What was the conversation 2 weeks ago when the Turf War Mode Cup thing happened? Or was it last week? Top level players, I don't understand why we don't do more Turf War tournaments. This mode is incredible. Never once heard anyone say anything nice about anything other than Splat Zones. All right. Poor Mode Cup. I'm not going to sit here and disagree with Gray because I don't play competitive Splatoon anymore. As I'm looking at Low Tide City, I got that little itch, like, oh, maybe, like, get a Destiny Troop team to go to that. But then in the back of my mind, I was like, that's a dumb thing to do. Don't do that. Just go as a spectator. So I don't play the game competitively anymore. But I do make map lists, and I will say, to Gray's point, when you make map lists, it's really hard to do that in this game. It was difficult to do in Splatoon 2, but that was also because we were putting too many maps into our map list. Proving Grounds, if I could pat myself on the back, was the first tournament to adopt the idea of what if we just limit the map pool to only 16 maps in general? And now you see everybody doing that. Ink TV took it to an even further extreme, only 3 maps per mode. But even when it comes to making map lists for Proving Ground, or the map list that we make for Low Ink that has... Now we've limited it to 5 maps per mode for Low Ink. It's still really hard to find Tower Control and Rainmaker maps that you can use on a consistent basis. Now, if you wanted to use Mako Mart for like everything or Hagglefish for everything, that clears things up. But what you try to do when you make maps for tournaments, especially when you have a limited number, you have like small map pools, you don't want to use a map more than twice. So Robo Ramen, that map is fantastic. You don't want to use it for more than just 2 modes. Otherwise, it's gonna feel like the tournament map list is a lot smaller than what it actually is. More maps, more variety of maps, even when you have a limited pool, helps make players feel like, oh, this isn't just a repeat of things over and over again. But when you come to like Tower Control, like even Shipyard. Like Shipyard was a map you could get away with putting into map pools for Tower Control like 6 months ago. And then I think it was Jared that came out and be like, this is the worst map ever. Why are we doing this? And then all of a sudden that's got to go out the window. So like the amount of maps that you can use, that you can genuinely get away with putting into your map pool for Tower Control and Rainmaker are really difficult to come across. Clan Blitz isn't that bad. If you think there's not at least 5 Clan Blitz maps that you can put into a map pool that aren't fantastic, you're not paying attention. Clan Blitz is fine. The problem with Clan Blitz, as everyone's pointing out right now, well, top level noticed this past month, even though low level noticed it as soon as Kraken came out. Kraken cheese does kind of ruin the game. Now, we're not going to get to a point to where we're going to be banning specials, and that's another. It's a point I brought up before, but it's another one I'm going to harp on a little bit later down the line here. But I think it was Steven from Surf and Turf say, well, wait a minute. If Kraken's the problem, why wouldn't you just ban Kraken in general from Clan Blitz instead of just banning the whole mode? And we're never going to get to the point to banning any of this stuff, but that seems like a more logical take for that. My point being, Clan Blitz, if you take out Kraken, or Kraken gets fixed, or like you can't jump to it, like the Kraken jump thing is pretty OP. If you can build up 3 power clams, which means that you're just like completely surrendering map control to your opponent by allowing them to do that. If we like 3 or 4 months ago, it seemed like Clan Blitz was getting a ton of praise by a lot of different people. That like we were saying, okay, this is probably the best mode in the game right now, and people weren't too high on splat zones. It's only, well, not recently, but it's now just starting to come back into fruition. But regardless, I get where this is coming from a map maker standpoint, or somebody who makes map lists. I completely understand the frustration when it comes to tower control Rainmaker, because there's a lot more competitively viable splat zone maps than there are in the other 2 modes, maybe more than Clan Blitz as well. Just because it's not the most difficult mode to build a map for. You could really screw it up, as some Scorched Gorge, perfect example, but you can get away with splat zones in most maps. As much as I joke about Tower Control Art Academy getting picked as a counter pick in every single scenario ever, it's really your best option for tower control. I mean, that's why it's picked so often. Teams want to do tower control, and they don't really have, like there's other tower control maps, but nah. So like I understand why tower control gets picked a lot, but I'm still going to make fun of it for being a fun meme. The problem with single mode tourneys is if you're going to do just one mode, and this isn't just splat zones like you saw in Sindao, but like a Minnow Cup or a Mo Cup or anything, in order for it to stay fresh with just one mode, you have to get a lot of maps in there. So you'll probably see a lot of maps you traditionally wouldn't see played in other all-mode tournaments. Case in point, the Sindao Finals had a lot of teams. Now, teams picked what maps they wanted to show up for their selections. Like, this is the team's fault, not a TO thing. But in the Sindao Finals, you saw mincemeat zones show up pretty much every single round. And at one point, Wahoo made an appearance seemingly out of nowhere. And that's more stuff you're going to see. If you do just a splat zones only tournament, you're going to see more of those kind of question mark kind of maps start popping up, because you're going to run out of maps really quickly and things are going to become really still. Wow, Mako Mart zones. Again, my favorite. It's only round 3, and here it is for the 4th time. What a fantastic joy this is to play this out. Now, regardless of what you think of the debate, if you are for splat zones only tournaments, against splat zones only tournaments, it's fine to debate that. It's a healthy conversation to have. If you genuinely think that conversation is going to affect anything, you're wrong. And I hate to break the news to you, but literally nothing is going to change from this debate. And I'm going to tell you why. First off, will a few tournaments adopt this mindset? Some already do. I believe Triton Cup is correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Triton Cup is a splat zones only tournament, has been for a long time. Obviously the Sindao Finals was. Tournaments that rotate modes usually have splat zones only as well. You might see like a tournament try it here or there. I know Proving Ground, the other head TOs for Proving Grounds have hinted at like, hey, maybe we should try the splat zones only just to see what the reaction to it would be. Is it something that's going to stick around? That's going to be difficult. That's going to be really difficult to see. First, let's talk about low ink and why you are not likely to see splat zones only in a tournament like low ink. The purpose of low ink is not to get banned from it. Well, maybe in theory it is, but the purpose is to allow every team that signs up to it an opportunity to grow and get stronger so that eventually when you do get banned, we're going to be preparing you the best that we can for life outside of low ink. Now, a lot of teams flounder, flop, and die once they get banned from low ink, but the the players the players that do get banned eventually keep grinding and find their way in the grand scheme of the quote unquote mid level hell. With that mindset in mind, and we've still like look at our rules and feel like, okay, what can we do to make sure that these are more in line with other tournaments that are more open? One of the more recent changes is how we do our DC rules. Before, it was always 30 points or less remaining to get a replay, but every open tournament does 50 or less. So we're like, what sense does it make for us to make the DC replays easier in low ink if it's going to be completely different when everyone gets banned from low ink? So we changed our low ink DC rules within like the past couple of months to make them more in line with what you would see in tournaments outside of low ink. Same as maps as well. The map pool, while I'm the person to make the map pool, I look at what other open tournaments are doing and try to come up with a map pool that still works out best for that. And people still complain. I could show you guys the feedback forums at some point. I'm not going to, but I could. And we get complaints every single month about a map of some sort. And it's like, bruh, this map pool is literally copy and paste what 20XX was, which was a map pool designed by what top level players wanted in particular. So like, there's nothing you can do. No matter what kind of map pool you put out there, somebody's going to complain about it. But we're still trying to put out the maps you are going to see outside of low ink and not make you guys play something stupid like Moray Clan Blitz, which you will never see once you get out of low ink. With that in mind, low ink is never going to become a splat zone only tournament unless you see every other tournament that's above low ink become splat zone. If the community as a whole adopted a splat zones only mindset, I would, even though I'm against that, I would still argue with the other head TOs of low ink that we make that change as well, because it would make no sense to have everybody in low ink play Rainmaker, Tower Control, and Clan Blitz, only for all three of those modes to vanish by the time that you get kicked out of it. It would be a disservice to our players, and it would stunt the growth of the entire scene, because players are going to be way, way far behind all the splat zone strategies that they're going to be seeing from the teams that do nothing but splat zones at that point. And by the way, we kind of already acknowledge splat zones as the superior mode in low ink anyways. If you guys survive long enough on a Sunday to get to counter picks, game one, we always give you what game one is, and it is always a splat zones. The reason we give you that is because we feel like splat zones is the most competitively fairness mode of them all. That doesn't mean that two teams are going to come out the gate in any splat zone game and be dead even. No, some teams are obviously much stronger at splat zones than others. And we've debated the idea of, well, what if we just rotate them? Round one, first game splat zones. Round two is tower control. But ultimately, we've stuck with splat zones for every single one just because we acknowledge, like, yeah, we think this is the best mode to start off in game one. And game one and counter picks are insanely important, because if you win game one, all you got to do is win on your counter picks, and you win the set. It basically gives you a home field advantage. So game one is infinitely the most important game in a counter pick best of 5 or best of 3. And we acknowledge that by making it splat zones right off the bat. But my point being, low ink, and in my opinion, all low-level tournaments should never be the ones that initiate any kind of change in this community. Change should not come from low level up. The change should come from the top, the open level tournaments, the majors on down. The low level should be a reflection of what they see at the top, not the other way around. You got to prepare players for what's next, not try to change the mindsets of everyone from the bottom level of the community. So why won't we see change come from the top? What is something we know about this community? Well, we know lots of things, but what is something that we've learned rather recently? Something I've kind of been confirmed to me rather recently. This community cannot agree on anything. And if you want to see change within the community, you need pretty much everyone to be on board with what that change is going to be. I thought for sure that this splatter screen thing, as soon as we saw that it has a negative health and safety effect on several players within our community, as soon as we, maybe not initially when we first saw the reports, but the more that we started to read, the more we started to learn about how that special affects people, I thought for sure it would be such a no-brainer, slam dunk, everybody's going to be on board with this decision, just ban it across the board. Foil squeezer with chicken bomb isn't that deep that we need to die on the hill to keep it into the game. I thought for sure if anything was going to unite the community in one new rule that should be added to all tournaments, something that is a health concern for players would be such a no-doy decision to make. And I was wrong. Oh my goodness, was I wrong. So you're telling me if we can't agree on how splatter screen should be implemented or banned from certain tournaments, how in the hell do you guys think we're going to agree on what certain modes should be played in this game? It's not going to happen. It's just flat out not going to happen. And in my mind, it further highlights how the TO Guild, the Tournament Organizer Splatoon Guild, is just a place for TOs to talk about discussions that are going on in the community. It's a place for all the TOs across all the orgs to share their thoughts and opinions on things. But it's not going to be a place like the statement that the TO Guild put out when the community guidelines came out. That is, in my mind, probably going to be the only statement you will ever see come out from the TO Guild that is like a joint commission kind of thing. Because there's no way anybody is going to tell Dapple Productions what they have to do, or MIT or IPL or any, like, no, we can't control each other. So if Dapple Productions decides we're not going to do Splat Zones only for any of our stuff because our audience is going to fall asleep after a month, and then IPL decides we're going to do Splat Zones only because we're cringe like that, there's nothing, like, that's just how it's going to be. You're just going to have different orgs and different standalone tournaments are going to have their own individual rules, and it's all going to be a giant mess, and you're not going to have any kind of uniformity at all. There's no structure that forces uniformity on anything, and that's a great thing. That's how it should be. But again, if we're not going to be, like, when it comes to banning specials in the future, when the game is done with patches and we know what the final version of the game is going to be, eventually we're going to need to get to conversations of like, okay, Zuka is still broken. People are running triple Zuka. We need to find a way to limit this. And as much as I've said, we don't need to ban anything now, and I still stand by that because it's a Pandora's box of, well, okay, the patch comes out, you need to bring it back in and then ban something else because this person has a clip on Twitter that shows how it's unbeatable in that one random situation. How are we going to deal with that kind of thing? But I've also said that I regret not being vocal about us banning missiles to an extent, like maybe just one missile comp at the end of Splatoon 2. That game wasn't getting any more patches. It wasn't getting updated anymore. My stance was not to ban things back then, and I regret not having a different stance on it back at the end of Splatoon 2, and I hope that I have a better stance on it towards the end of Splatoon 3. But when it comes to that point, you're not going to see any uniformity on that either, because TOs are just going to do whatever they feel like doing, and I don't blame them. Again, you're not going to see a universal rule that says, okay, one splatter shot, only two shooters, you have to you can't use special charge up or whatever. Like every tournament's going to have their own version of rules being changed or like of like comp limitations, and you're going to have some tournaments that be like, no, the game's fine how it is. We're not going to limit anything. There's going to be no uniformity at all. So when you have conversations about, are we going to switch to splat zones only? I don't know. It's fine to talk about, but if you genuinely think any change is going to come from that, the community is not built for change. We are not designed for change because we don't have a unified approach on anything. Even splatter color screen, a special that literally hurts people. We don't even have a uniform stance on that, which blows my mind, but it's not going to happen. It's fine to talk about. And this is fine. Like, orgs doing their own thing, I think is fine. This is a grassroots community. We don't need like a leader or a king or like this overarching, like people are critical of splat safety of over policing, but we keep reminding you, splat safety holds no power. They just give suggestions. And it's up to orgs to decide if they want to follow those suggestions or not. Pretty much everyone has, and the one time an org didn't, and they disbanded like a week later. But individuality with where the community is right now is great, which is why there's so much pushback against our overlords for creating those community guidelines, because it's so anti-community and it comes across as them trying to control us in ways where we're like, this doesn't make any sense why you would want to control us in these very specific ways. I will say this, though. If a majority of open tournaments do make a change, again, even though I think playing all modes is better than just flat zones only, I will still advocate that low ink makes that change as well, because that's going to be what's best for our players, even if they might not agree with it. We have to prepare them for the next step. My point being, though, you're not going to see that change because this community is far too divided for any kind of change to take place, period. So if you are a member of Overtime and you thought splat zones only, yes, I don't have to practice throwing clam blitz into the ground instead of nowhere near the basket. I got some bad news for you. You still need to practice playing clam blitz like a normal human being, unfortunately. Pop Gun should become the supreme leader of the Western comp community. Hell no. Did you not just hear anything I just said? I know you're just joking, though. I have spaghetti and meatballs right now. Thank you. I didn't see what you're talking about, Elemental, of wanting to get on something that's fun, but that's cool. My issue with the conversation is that some people are using cheese as a way to knock down the other modes. When you have Vacuum Slider, Booyah Strike, Splashdown, another special I've definitely forgotten all exist. Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point. People were complaining about tower control at the very beginning because you just put a bubbler and a vacuum up and you just auto-win, and people went away from that strat. And then when vacuum gets put on another good weapon, people are going to realize that strat again, and they're in the same conversation all over. There's a lot of good strategies out there that teams aren't really looking at because Zuka's so good. But you can definitely special cheese your way through several modes. Do we have enough good maps to warrant just zones only? We do. Yeah, in all fairness, I think we do. Not that I'm advocating for zones only, but I think there are enough good splat zones map to do it. Wahoo and Mincemeat were kind of weird, but again, when it came to that Sindao tournament, like they weren't forced onto those maps. The teams decided they wanted to go there, and well, the more you play those maps, the more you start to figure out why they're not as annoying as they could be. But I don't know. I guess that conversation could be extended to anything. But in my opinion, Splat Zones does have the deepest competitive map pool, far more than Tower Control and Rainmaker. Clan Blitz, I would argue there's a lot of really good competitive Clan Blitz maps. Splatoon President, I'll stand up to the idiots in chat. No, I don't. I let you guys come back in every single week. The only people I ban are bots. There's even some people that are like, I don't like that person. I'm going to ban them from my chat. And then they're like, oh, wait a minute. And then they'll go on Twitter and use it as an award. I don't block people on Twitter. I just mute them. It's pretty much the same thing in my opinion. I almost wanted to go into it's now time for the weekly recap, but that's not what we're doing here. Speaking of low ink, I just want to say, you guys have no idea how happy I am that low ink is running this weekend. I'm so happy it's back. And it's normal, no limitation, participant limitation, or anything like that. I've been frustrated with low ink many times running it, and sometimes that might come across in some of the responses I give to you guys in help desk when you get snarky with us. But there's been no low ink in September because of Super Jump. There was something called a low ink in November just because we wanted to stay off the radar, and look where we are now. But just when you step away from something, absent makes the heart grow fonder. I love low ink. Of course it's frustrating because you have over 1,000 players playing in it, and what really gets me is the amount of people that go into help desk not asking questions but are like looking to point out your flaws that don't actually exist. Like there's so many people that go into the low ink help desk that are confidently incorrect about things and will go after you for it. People that will argue with it. There's going to be somebody that's going to argue with us tonight when we kick them out because of splash tags. And they'll be like, how was I supposed to know? And it's like, we literally been pinging you every single day for the past week to let you know that you need to get your splash tags in. And the amount of counter arguments people give for that is beyond my scope of understanding. The most ridiculous is people that will argue with us on Saturday night about Swiss tiebreaker rules. So the first question is, how come I'm not in alpha or top 32 even though I beat the team that's above us? Shouldn't we be above them due to tiebreakers? And we'll literally take Battlefy's tiebreakers and copy and paste them in chat for that person to read, and they'll still argue with us about Battlefy's tiebreaker rules. Like the website broke that one time, glitched, and like completely screwed up their own tiebreaker rules into the other team's favor instead of them. And I get like this team above me, I beat them. How come I'm not above them? The problem is when you're 4-2, there's 10 other teams in your group that are also 4-2. It's like, okay, you're comparing yourself to just that team above you. How come the teams that are also 4-2 that are all below you, why are you saying the tiebreaker should be bent for you over all those other teams? Like, that's why tiebreaker rules aren't just head to head when it comes to Swiss. They're perfect the way that they're designed on Battlefy. But you still get people, even though we're right and we explain to them why we're right, will still argue with us about that. Like there's countless examples of that, and that's why I don't have any hair. But I am excited for those people to come back. I would much rather spend my Saturday nights with people telling me how I screwed up the Battlefy tiebreaker rules against them somehow than not have a low ink at all, because I love low ink, and I know you guys do too. I've made an entire podcasting career built off of low ink. We're not going 210 episodes of this thing without a low ink. I'll tell you that for sure. Or we wouldn't still be doing this. I played in low ink. I've been commentating it. I've been running it. I won it. I know several of you enjoy it as well. And it is the most beloved tournament in this entire community. So to have it back at this point, and somebody asked in chat, no, we did not get licensed. We did not. We're not going to lie about that. But we're bringing it back anyways. We are in the process of getting it done. It's going to be a long process, though. So who's playing in this month of low ink? A lot of teams, actually. Where are we at registration-wise as of right now, actually? We still got 5.5 hours to go. We have 153 teams signed up with 11 pending. I would wager that we are going to get to that 160. We're going to go way past the 160 mark, but then teams will drop and we're going to kick some because they didn't read rules or whatever. So I'm assuming we'll start Saturday around the 155, 160 mark. That's a pretty hefty low ink. Let me list off a few of the teams that are going to be playing in this one. First off, do you guys remember those arrow teams? Arrows of ice, arrows of fire, arrows of electricity, arrows of light. I don't think there ever was an arrow of light team, even though there should have been. All those arrow teams are gone, except, and let me just make sure. Yes, there's only one arrow team left that I have seen play, and that is Arrows of Fire. Is it safe to say that of all the elements that exist that can apparently be attached to arrows, that fire beats them all? In Zelda, you want to use the light arrows. The ice arrows were garbage, and they're really annoying to get in Ocarina of Time, and by the time you get them, they're beyond obsolete. But the light arrows were the strongest. I guess the fire arrows have more application because you could light torches from a distance. Maybe that's why Arrows of Fire is still a thing. Ocean's Delight is playing in this tournament. It's not Ocean 7. That was the first thing I think of. I was like, wait a minute, didn't we ban those guys like 2 years ago? But Ocean's Delight is just a delightful team that's going to be playing in this month of low ink. Squidfany is here, which reminds me of one of Destiny Troop's old rivals, Symphony. And I got to give credit to that old Symphony team for not naming themselves Squidfany, because finding ways to get the word squid and cephalopod into your team name I would rather the community debate that on Twitter. If we can get squid and cephalopod out of our team names, rather than if we should get rid of Splat Zone or get rid of the other modes in our tournaments. By the way, if you're wondering, cephalopod used to be the most overused team name to some extent in teams Div 7 and below. But in this low ink, as of right now, we only have 2 teams that have cephalopod in their name. You got Cephalopod Helvetia, and you also just have Cephaloparty. So that's fine. 2 cephalopod teams is fine. But when you have, let's see how many squid teams we have. The word squid shows up 11 times. And I think some of these are players more so than teams that's doing this. Squid and Co., Squid Rollups, Squid EST, Squidfany, Just Squidding Roll. Oh my gosh. They're not even squids, are they? They're inklings. Inklings and octolings. Are those things even squids? More like bloopers than anything. The most frustrating team name goes out to Half of a Headphone. And I don't want to sit here and be mean to people, because Glitter Gel Pens, I've hated on their team name for over a year now. And they've pushed back on me, I think playfully on Twitter in the past. But Half of a Headphone, I hate you. Your team name makes me angry. There's nothing more frustrating than having a headphone where only one of your ear things work. You can't listen to music. I listen to some podcasts with I'll listen to a podcast out of just one ear. But man, that is a really frustrating team name, and I wish you guys success, but your team name sucks. Now, it's not squids. It's not cephalopods that rules the day. We got a lot of teams that are food related in this low ink, and we need to give some shout outs to them all. First off, there's this weird 2 teams we haven't really seen at this point that are, I'm assuming, are sister teams. One of the team is called Eating Your Veggies, and the other team is called Drinking Your Milkshakes. And I gotta say, as I was younger, I would be very mad if you drank my milkshake, and I would prefer that you eat my veggies. Now that I'm older and there are consequences for the food that I eat, I would not want you to eat my veggies, and I would more so push my milkshake into your direction. I love a good milkshake. Those things have a lot more after effects on you as you get out of your teenage years. So whoever's eating your veggies and drinking your milkshakes, good luck this upcoming Low Inc. But I think the eating veggies team is actually going to last 6 rounds. If you're drinking your opponent's milkshakes for 6 rounds, you're not going to make it to round 6. You're going to be stuck in the John in round 3 onward. Speaking of being stuck in the John, we have a team called Taco Bell signed up for this tournament. Taco with a K, not a C, so there's no copyright infringement there. We're getting those. Do you guys have those Taco Bells that are kind of like banks where they just like put it into the tube and send it down to you? I think we're getting one of those near us. They're building a new Taco Bell and it's 2 stories. And I'm like, what's the point of that? I think we're getting a bank Taco Bell. We'll see how this team at Taco Bell, maybe we can call them that in this Low Inc to avoid anything. Of course, you can't be an official Splatoon team unless you have some sort of space-related thing tied into your name. So keeping the food theme here, we got Cosmic Latte. We got to have cosmic everything. We got to have a moon that's every single shade, red, blue, Arctic, all these kinds of different nonsense. It makes sense that we have a space-themed coffee drink as well with coffee latte. And hey, if you want to add a little bit of creamer to your coffee, there is a team called Half and Half that has signed up for this tournament. And where do you traditionally drink coffee? How about breakfast? We got a team name called the Breakfast Club. Now, show of hands, how many of you grew up reading the book series? I believe it was the child book series, The Breakfast Club. I wasn't a Breakfast Club person. I was more so the the book series that was the 4 kids and they were chasing monsters. They were sometimes monsters, sometimes weren't, like werewolves can't be counselors. Vampires can't be your PE teacher. Like, I read all of those books when it was my time to read. I guess we should do a different question. Show of hands, how many of you actually read books when you were kids? Maybe that'd be a more, maybe we get some more information about that other than the Breakfast Club book series. Big Bagel is coming out here. Bagels go great with coffee, cosmic or otherwise. Camp Juice is signed up for this one. That's got to be gross. I went to camp for a week when I was a kid, and the juice on day 1 was horrible, but as camp goes on, everything sucks. So things just start naturally getting a little bit better. So maybe Camp Juice is not going to do well in this Low Inc, but they're a team like 5-6 months from now. They're going to win it because the Camp Juice is just going to naturally taste better due to everything else around it sucking. Crab Sticks, another team that we got here. I don't eat a lot of crab, but if I did, I think the stick variety of it would be fine. Of course, we got to give a shout out to a team that's been around for a while, Kiwi Ice Cream, which is, well, hey, if Kiwi Ice Cream plays against that team drinking your milkshakes, that's an auto L for them, right? Like, they're just going to drink them up. Since milkshake is basically mostly ice cream, although I wouldn't drink a kiwi flavored milkshake anyways. Last, but certainly not least, and this is where you guys are going to play a role here. Congratulations. Being in the Popcast chat, we are going to let you guys make a TOing decision. And I'm 100% serious with this. This team's name is, in all capital letters, guys, we need to come up with a name, and name has several E's at the end of it. A, that name's a little bit too long for our liking. And B, well, it's a dumb team name. So we're probably going to give these guys the Little Timmy and the Splats treatment. However, I don't know how to do polls, but I'll let you guys vote on this. We've recently gotten to, with Proving Grounds, the theme of changing stupid team names. Like, oh, we're just called Pickup this time. No, nobody knows who Pickup is. We are going to change this team's name to a Legends of the Hidden Temple name. If you don't remember what Legends of the Hidden Temple was, you didn't grow up in the 90s, and thinking back on it, it was kind of a dumb show. But when you're a kid, everything that's dumb seems pretty cool. So here's the different team names that we can go up with here. We can go with Red Jaguars, the Purple Parrots, the Orange Iguanas, or the Silver Snakes. Those are the 4 options. Whichever one you guys vote for most we will let that team know in the help desk at some point that they are being changed to that unless they want to do a different one in their preference there. And in all honesty, if you want my opinion, it's almost not a punishment to call a team the Red Jaguars. That seems like Roundy's pointed that out with Proving Grounds. Like, you guys shouldn't use Red Jaguars to change people's names because that's way too awesome of a team name to have. So, but still, we'll let you guys decide. And if anyone complains to me on that team about their team name being changed to something dumb, it's going right back to you guys. I'm shifting the blame. That's what TOing is all about right there. Two teams I got an eye on that are not in the top 10. Whip Rays and Squidding Good, or just Squidding. I should say Squidding Good's banned from Lowing. The Whip Rays and just Squidding fit into the same category as far as I'm concerned. They're both teams that get a lot of recognition, that are fan favorites, but need to start getting consistent alpha brackets to kind of justify their stance into things. I feel like the Whip Rays and just Squidding are both more than capable of doing that. I would love to see them start doing that this month. Become a name brand team where I could put both of these teams legitimately into the top 10 next month. So those are the two teams, and I say that about Whip Rays every single month, I feel like. But those are the two teams I'm keeping an eye on personally that I feel like have the best chance to really step up and take that next kind of step there. There was a lot of highlighted stuff. It looks like Silver Snakes is kind of winning, though. The Purple Parrots got a little bit of... I think it's between Purple Parrots and Silver Snakes. Actually, no, there's a little bit more Purple Parrot going on here. The space theme is why I rebranded to Triton. It's sea-related, Greek god of the sea. I believe that's Poseidon is the... but it's also the name of Neptune's moon. It is, isn't it? Well, I mean, that nobody would think of that first. They would think of like the actual weapon, the Triton, I guess. Do you hate half of a headphone more than Team Biscuits? Yes, I do. Arrows of my extended car warranty. Thank you. Now, the real reason you guys are actually here. Disclaimer, before we get to the top 10, this was written at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm pretty sure none of these teams have dropped since then. But just if there's a team that signed up after 10 a.m. Eastern, like if JoJo signed up, I haven't seen them sign up. So they're not here. Velvet Sky is another top 10 eligible team, or eligible. A top 10 contending team. They didn't sign up at the time that I wrote this, and I don't know if they've even signed up yet. So those teams aren't going to show up here. If there's a team that I got to put in the number 11 spot, and I feel like this is one that's going to come back to bite me, I'm putting Forgotten at number 11. Who? Forgotten. You remember those guys. They did pretty well back in the October one. I think they were top 3 in beta bracket, if I remember correctly. As I'm looking at the teams that I got in here, I feel like there were 11 teams that I could have put in here, and just Forgotten is the one team. Now, I'm pointing this out now because I always offer apologies on my Monday episode of the podcast. I feel like Forgotten's going to be that one team that's going to make me pay for leaving them out of the top 10. So I just wanted to at least mention it here first, okay? That I'm acknowledging that that Forgotten's going to be in like other people's top 10, but there's just some other teams I'm looking in here that I'm like, I think I might slide those guys up. So let's get into it. Number 10. Aquarius, to me, is a wild card team. A team not many people are going to recognize because they haven't played in a lot of tournaments yet as this name. They are a mix of Order Up, which dropped last month in round 1, or October in round 1, and Indigo, and also has some Banana Basics DNA in their roster. But the reason I got them in my top 10 is because they have just a few notable 2-1 results over some strong pickups in open tournaments. I just don't know what exactly to expect from this team. I could see them either missing top 32 altogether or flying so far under the radar all weekend long until they make semifinals of Alpha Bracket. Regardless, you guys playing in this tournament need to keep an eye out for Aquarius this upcoming weekend. Number 9. There is no way I can pronounce the team name of Triple Fritterretter Grambo Wafflin, but I can't Google it. It seems like that shrimp dish. If you go to the snack bar in the game, it used to be Krusty Sean. What does Krusty Sean even do anymore? I believe this team's name is the official name of the experience point booster meal that you would get, like that little shrimp concoction thing. I believe their team name is the official name of what that meal would be. So there you go. Regardless, Team Triple Waffle has one, made alpha brackets in previous low-inks, and B, finished second place in all of Div 6. Also, they have won against they got a win against the Booyah Gang in a tournament. I'm assuming a paddling pool event. My nightmare is commentating this team because they have such a crazy name, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're live long enough into Alpha Bracket to where I have no choice but to commentate them. And if I do, Team Waffle it is. We'll go with that. Number 8. I think the last time we saw Marine Melody play in a low ink was back in February of this year. But it's not like they've fallen off the face of the earth and stopped playing the game. It's quite opposite. They have played in about 30 tournaments since then, most of them open tourneys, or at least their players from that team have been playing in, maybe not under the name Marine Melody specifically. And I have always said that if you want to get better and you want to eventually win low ink or get banned from it outright, you need to play in events outside of low ink. Marine Melody is the ultimate example of this concept. They've literally gone on a mountain sabbatical away from us in low ink, training in the ancient mountains, isolated from their low ink brethren. And now they return to us, grown-ass squids, ready to conquer this challenge like it's their birthright. In all honesty, I have no idea how good they're going to be this upcoming weekend, but I'm willing to bet the snot that my body has been producing in abundant quantities this past week that this will be the best placement Marine Melody has ever gotten in a low ink. Number 7. Overtime. Welcome to the cursed top 10. I'll admit, when I first was looking at teams that could make it into the top 10, Overtime was not a team that I had considered for this category. But the more I looked into them, the more I started to realize, okay, this is not your granddad's Overtime. These guys are legit. They're pretty good. They're coming off of a win yesterday over Coral Clash Low Tide number 4, which is a tournament I just found out about at 10 a.m. Eastern time when I was looking to write down some notes for this tournament. So in all fairness, I don't know what the heck that is, if that's a significant tournament to win or not. But Overtime has been looking better and better and better. They might end up, in all honesty, being the most improved team of 2023. And what better way to highlight that by winning the final low ink of the year. The only concern I would have is if they ended up playing Clan Blitz at some point. That would be the last thing I would counterpick if I was them, and that would be the first thing I would counterpick against them, because they invent hilarious new ways of just not picking up the Mercy Clam and just getting in, just like completely fumbling it. That aside, Overtime still going to be extremely good. Number 6. Ink Black is the number 6 team on my top 10 list. Number 5. There have been so many Splatoon teams named after space themes. The moon being one of the most popular things. Blue Moon, Arctic Moon, Moon over Miami, Grandma got mooned by a reindeer. Well, make room now for Alliance Moon, a team that would routinely go 2-4 in low ink, but now looks like a real heavyweight contender. Made top cut in the Ladder Inc. tourney, but even more impressively, won Minnow Cup last weekend. Winning Minnow Cup has recently been a great indicator of success in the following low ink, so there's no reason to see Alliance Moon as anything other than a top 10 team as they look to become the first Moon-themed team ever to win low ink. Number 4. Ominous. They might have an edgy team name, but the results are anything but edgy. I'm sure that makes sense to someone. Ominous has a solid roster loaded with experienced alpha bracket players, including a couple of photic zoners. And back in October, they won beta bracket. Correction. They curb stomped beta bracket, going 13-1 per game, including a 4-0 sweep in the finals. What have they done since then? A handful of SOS tournaments and a legacy tourney in the past couple of months. Don't worry about that. Ominous is going to do great this month. Trust me. Number 3. The question with MISC is how much stock do you put in a team winning a one-off ladder tournament that does have the same low ink traditional skill cap, even though it's nowhere near the same format that you're traditionally going to see out of the low ink. How much do you care about that? It does play a little bit of a role. But more importantly, what you want to see out of teams that are near the top 3 is consistency. That ladder low ink that they won was a follow-up to what they did in October, which was go 6-0 in their Swiss group and made it to round 2 of Alpha Bracket. Consistent month-to-month great results in any tournament, regardless of the format, is an indicator of a strong team, a contender not just to win a one-off experiment tourney, but to win a legit low ink, which is what they're going to be hoping to do this weekend. Number 2. Or matter of opinion, if you want to be boring. Moo has to be in the top 4, at least, of every low ink that they play in until they're banned. They're at that level of a consistent team at this point. Usually in Alpha Bracket, finish 3rd in Ladder Inc., and while they're really good at leaving emotes to my responses to their question and help desk, they're even better at playing the video game. Oh, they also finished 2nd place in Div 5, which in theory should make them the automatic favorites for this entire tournament. But hey, it's just a matter of opinion. And number 1, the team I am predicting to win this month's low ink. If there's anything I love in this community, it's people that run their mouths. More so, not just people that run their mouths, but people that back it up. If you can talk the talk and also walk the walk, I like you. And I like Super Team 5. They lived up to the hype that was placed on them back in October, and they actually surpassed it, going all the way to grand finals before getting swept by Smoking Moeyes to take home the silver medal. That was 2 months ago, and don't bother looking up what they accomplished in Ladder Inc. because it honestly is not that bad. They went 7-2 in Ladder Inc. and didn't make top cut, but that's more of a product of us not really setting correct ladder tiebreaker rules and jank like that as to why they didn't make top cut. Yeah, win all your games, but that was something we learned from the weird experiment that was ladder. So don't knock that against them. Instead, judge this team on what they've done lately, which includes playing in a lot of open tourneys to gain more experience and securing a first place in a Mako bracket 2 weeks ago of an SOS. We also found out in the pre-show in October that Super Team 5 likes to they got some opinions on things. And again, you can have opinions as long as you back it up. And Super Team 5 is not afraid to back up the talk that they put out. Now, can they win a single game in grand finals? That's yet to be determined. But if I had to pick one of this team out of the 10 here that I feel like has the best chance of winning this tournament, I'm going with Super Team 5, which of course means they're absolutely not going to win it, but still, that's how it is. If you have an issue with anything I said here, you think my rankings are bullcrap, good news for you. I always offer apologies on the Monday episode of the Popcast because you get to prove me wrong. Let's prove Pop Gun wrong. Well, there you go. You got a chance. You get to do it starting round 1 of tomorrow. Till then, if you'd like to be a part of the Popcast anyway, feel free to reach out on my socials below, in the middle of this thing here. Discord at Popgun. Twitch at Popgun25, Twitter at Popgun, Mr._Popgun, and Dapple Productions is running the thing, so let's go read them. Hey, make sure you guys get vaccinated, stay safe, wear a mask. Good luck this weekend. You still got a few hours to finalize your rosters, and I don't know. Good luck.